Hey folks, it's Ray at DCRainmaker.com here, and today we have a complete user interface tour / beginner's guide, tutorial, getting started guide, whatever you want to call it, on the Garmin Venu 2 Plus. Now in this video, I'm going to walk from start to finish using this watch. So everything from the general fitness features like activity tracking and sleep tracking, all the way into the sport features like running, the different sport modes and customization, as well as the new microphone and speaker features like the Google Assistant portions and Siri and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to go through that over the course of this video. It is a bit of a long video, of course, but you can use the YouTube chapters all on the bottom there to find the section you want to know more information about. Now keep in mind, this is not my review video. That's linked up in the corner there, where I go through things like accuracy and all the newness. So with that, we'll dive straight into it. What you've got here is the Venu 2 Plus, and you'll notice on the side there are 3 buttons now as compared to the 2 buttons that there used to be in the past. In particular, there's this new middle button right there, and that's to access the voice assistant as well as to customize it for a shortcut of your own choosing. On the back of the watch, there is the optical heart rate sensor. You also have the stainless steel back bezel that's new on the Venu 2 Plus. This is Garmin's Elevate 4.0 optical heart rate sensor, the latest generation one that was introduced on the Venu 2 back in May or so of last year, and then now it's also on the Forerunner 945. And at the bottom here, you have Garmin's standard charging pin or charging port. You can get third-party charging cables for this, by the way, if you want like a USB-C charging cable, or if you want one for your keychain, all the kind of stuff I've linked down below. I know those are pretty big favorites for a lot of folks with Garmin wearables. So back on the main screen itself, this is a touch screen. You can see as I can swipe through it like this using my finger, or I can use the buttons for some basic navigation. So for example, this bottom right-hand one right there is the back button. The upper right-hand one is to access the sport modes. And then if we go back again, here's this middle one, and it has 2 options. One, if I do a long hold, it opens up the voice assistant. So you can see that right there, and I can ask it a question. What is today? And there you go, you can hear the voice assistant, or I can also customize it. So if I go ahead and just press it once, you'll see I can make a shortcut button there, and I choose this right in the middle, and I can do setup, and now I can choose what I want that shortcut to go to. So music controls, or alarms, or stopwatch, or timer, brightness, wallet, voice assistant, phone calling, etc. So this is something that you can go ahead and say, hey, I want to go right to the wallet, or wanted to go dial someone and get into the calling menu, and you can do that more quickly there. You also have the controls menu, and that's in this upper right-hand button, but a long hold instead. So if you long hold this now, you'll see you get the controls, and you can customize what's on there. So I have my screen brightness, my wallet for contactless payments, to make a phone call. Down at the bottom, I added the emergency assistance option right there. So that's a screen timing out. I'll explain that in 1 second. And then I have my volume controls right here. So you can see those. I can go change the volume in the system. I have Spotify access to go ahead and play songs and music that I've downloaded from Spotify. And all of these, again, are customizable in the widgets menu. Now you can access the settings by pressing this lower right-hand button right there and just holding it down for a second. So there you go. And the reason I'm using my thumb up here, by the way, is to simply balance the watch. I'm on this box so you can see it more easily. So there's no buttons on this side at all. This is just me holding the watch so it doesn't go flying off the table. And this is where you can go down into settings even further and set up everything from activity profiles to the controls menu I mentioned earlier, sensors, music, connectivity. And don't worry, we'll get to all this in just a second. Let's first go back to the very beginning, back on the watch face itself. Now this watch face is customizable. Right now I have it showing my steps up top, my body battery on the left-hand side, the temperature outside, the date, and the time in the middle. And you'll see it keeps on turning off, and that's because by default the watch will turn off if it's not in use, if it's not in always-on mode. You have 2 basic modes with the Venu series. You have gesture mode or always-on mode. Always-on mode is, as it implies, it's on all the time and it burns battery more quickly. You're going to get just a couple days of battery life in that mode, versus in gesture mode, you're going to get upwards of 9 days of battery life. In my testing, I'm about like 5 to 6 days with daily workouts, either GPS or non-GPS, depending on the weather. So that will all draw your battery down faster. As will changing the brightness, the brighter the display, the less battery, the more music you play, the less battery, and so on. So things will vary a little bit, but still it's pretty solid battery across the board for a display of this quality. And you can change those settings by holding on this right-hand button right there, going into the settings option at the bottom, and then down into system, and then finally display. And this is where you can change from brightness levels if you want to. You can go and change what it's going to do during an activity and not during an activity. So you can see the timeout is always on, gesture is on, sensitivity. You can play with those based on what you want, based on how well it works on your wrist. Now you can also change that clock face as well. If we go back again, you'll see up at the top here, keep on going back, And there we go, clocks and watch face. So watch face allows us to change the different watch faces. So you can see this is a live version. There's non-live and live versions. So if we choose this for a second, you'll notice that it actually kind of moves each time I raise my wrist. So if I were to go and swipe down, swipe back up again, you'll see it makes this little animation, very similar to what an Apple Watch has, and there are some of their animations. And this would actually show every time you raise your wrist up normally, because live watch faces won't actually stay in always on mode. You can see that went off right there. So every time you raise your wrist, you're gonna see that animation. Oh, hey, and a quick note, if you are finding this video interesting or useful, just simply whack that like button right now or hit subscribe. Either of those really do help out this video and the channel quite a bit. Now, if we swipe down here, you've got your widgets. And these are widgets that are both from Garmin as well as third-party widgets that you can add using the Connect IQ store. So right now, I'm just gonna show you all the Garmin stock ones. So you have steps and forest climb and intensity minutes. And I can click on any one of these and I can see more information about it. So you can see my steps right there, increased over the course of the day. You can see a little dip where it dips down. That's actually because I have multiple Garmin watches and they're kind of like competing on sync a little bit. So you see those little variations. There is one with an older data set syncs in for a second before the next one syncs out. And that's apparently a bug that Garmin's working on fixing for the February timeframe. But you can swipe this way and you can see the steps over the course of the 24 hours. In my case, it's basically just flat line throughout the night, and then I went to work and I've been here and I finished up a run a little bit ago. Now, if I swipe on down here, you can see all the different widgets that are available. You can customize these widgets at the very bottom. So we can go down to the bottom right here, choose edit. You can see the different widget glances that are available, and then I can add more of them right there. So I can say, show my last run or my last swim or music control or lights if you have Garmin's lights primarily on the cycling standpoint or cycling side. So if I choose the last run one right there, now I can go back. So we're back in the widgets here, and the last run one is right there. This week, it shows my total mileage for this weekend running, and then 9.65 kilometers is the run I just completed a short bit ago. I can tap that again. It's gonna load up that exact run. I did it on treadmill downstairs. You can see, there we go, relatively steady state run, and I can look at those details that we'll look at later on in the sports menu. Now backing out here, one last one I wanna mention is sleep. So this will automatically track your sleep every single night, and you can tap on this in the morning to see your sleep details and your sleep scores. In my case, I had a sleep score of 69, and then 6 hours and 5 minutes, and those are the sleep phases along the bottom. So if I go ahead and just swipe up there, you can see the different sleep phases. Keep in mind, these are a bit of like a guesstimate. I wouldn't focus very much on these, and like I wouldn't focus at all on these, to be honest. You can see the sleep time at the bottom. This is generally pretty good for me, especially the time I went to sleep there. And the time I woke up is correct, but also incorrect. I did wake up at 7 o'clock, but I just let the kids downstairs, let them go down and play for a while, and then I went back to bed for another hour and 20 minutes. But in this case, it didn't catch the going back to bed part, and I find it rarely catches it after like 6 in the morning or so. It just simply says, no, you're up, and trust me, I went back to sleep. Versus if I go back to sleep at 3 in the morning, no problems at all. And also keep in mind, Garmin does not measure naps at all. So unlike Fitbit and some of the other companies out there, there's no nap measurement on a Garmin device. So if we swipe down again here, you can see the total duration of those same sleep phases as well. All of this you can plot on the Garmin Connect mobile app. So you can see a screenshot right here on the side showing this not just for this one day, but for every other day or every month or week or whatever you want it to do. You can plot that long term there and kind of see how things trend over time. And that's true of all of these stats here. Every single stat that you see here is synced up to Garmin Connect, both the website and the mobile side. So whether it be steps or stairs or every metric right there, respiration rate, etc., is something that you can go ahead and look at in more detail over longer time periods. So you can see right here, here's my 7-day awake respiration rate, and you can see up there in the screenshot, my longer term ones as well. Now, one of the new health features introduced in the Venu 2 that carries through to the Venu 2 Plus is the health snapshot. And the way you access that is up here in the upper right-hand corner. Tap this once, and in this menu list of sports, you'll see health snapshot. Now, depending on how you customize it, it may be on the first page, the second page, or you have to go dig down the plus and go to an additional page. But what that allows you to do is to do a snapshot for 2 minutes where you just hang out, you chill, and at the end of those 2 minutes, I'll give you 5 scores, 5 different pieces of information. So the way this works is you go and you tap on it right there, you put this on your wrist, of course, and then you press to start to measure. And then you just chill for 2 minutes while it goes ahead and measures those things. Once it's done, it'll give you a report. So here's my report from a little bit earlier today. You can see my average heart rate, my pulse oximetry, so basically blood oxygen levels, my respiration rate, my stress, and my HRV. You can also export these out as a PDF from the Garmin Connect mobile app as well if you want to, and look at these at various points in time. Now, most of these stats, with the exception of HRV, it'll automatically be tracking in the background. This is if you want a super consistent way of measuring these day to day. So if you do this every single day as soon as you woke up, for example, then you have things something's a little more consistent day to day versus the other ones can be more variable based on what's going on in your particular day. So either way, however you want it, but it's something that's easy to export out and show a doctor if you want to, or just simply for our own records. Okay, so let's dive into the regular sport modes. So to do that, we always press this upper right hand button, tap it once, and you can see these sport modes. These top ones here are my favorites. These are the ones I've set up as my favorites that I go to most often, but you can always access all sport modes at the bottom by just pressing this little ... button, if you will, and then you can see a couple of ones there as well as this plus, and this plus lists all the sport modes that you have in the watch, and there's tons and tons and tons of modes here. Now each mode kind of has two basic things to it. One is calorie burn information about that particular sport, and then two is usually customized data fields for that sport. So for example, if you're looking at the skiing and snowboarding ones, those have data fields about things like the fastest run time, and they will automatically count your runs based on the chairlift going up and down, and it's pretty cool stuff. And in the case of rowing, you're going to get stroke information. In the case of climbing, you're going to get climb-related information there, and so on. So each one has more than just a calorie profile. It's also data behind the scenes that'll go ahead and make that sport recording more interesting. You can add these as well. So I can say I want to add the indoor track, for example, and then whether or not you want to make it a favorite. So I say, yeah, sure, why not? And then now you'll see back in my favorites list, if I go back here, indoor track should be at the bottom. So in our case, we're going to go to the basic run one, which is the one I use the most. And then here you'll see it's waiting for GPS. If I chose a run indoors one, then it wouldn't be waiting for GPS, but in this case, it'll never find GPS because I'm in a giant concrete building. But I want to mention down the bottom here, we can choose to swipe up. And this has our structure workouts. So I can choose which structure workouts I want. I can pick from these three right here that are preloaded on the watch. You can see mixed intervals, has this kind of very straightforward interval structure, but I can't customize or change anything in this particular workout, but I can do that on Garmin Connect Mobile, the smartphone app. I can make custom workouts there. I can download custom workouts. I can download entire training plans, 5K, 10K, marathon, triathlon, all that kind of stuff. And those will iterate through those workouts step by step and basically tell you when to go and when to recover and what you should be doing. And I use them from time to time. They're not a bad option as well. And if you have something more advanced like Training Peaks or some sort of other training platform, almost all of them integrate with this as well and push those workouts to this as well. So I can swipe up again. That's where the training calendar would show up if I had a training plan loaded. Or I can go into settings here and I can change my data screens. So you can see this right there. I've got 1 screen, 2 screen, 3 screen, a heart rate zone gauge. I'm just going to go to my 3rd screen and I'm going to go ahead and change the layout. So if I swipe up and down, you'll see it's changing from 4 data fields to 3 to 2 to 1. And it's making the font bigger as well as I do that. So I'm going to go just to the 4 data field one. I'm going to choose that. There we go. Oops, sorry, I didn't choose that. Choose that. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and choose Edit Data Fields. And now I can tap on any one of these data fields and choose from one of these categories. So you can see, let's change this to elevation, for example. And heart rate zone, we're going to change, I don't know, to, let's see, temperature. There we go, temperature. And then the timer I can change to pace. You can do this as much as you want to customize these 3 data fields. And this is probably the biggest difference between something like the Venu series and their Forerunner Phoenix series. And that these data fields might seem like a lot of data fields, but they are nothing compared to the number of data fields and the customization that you can do in the Forerunner and the Phoenix series watches. Now that said, for me and running, these are just fine. Like I can run and throw down and all that fun stuff with just these core data fields. Everything I need for like lap pace and lap time and all that is here. So for example, I can go to this one and choose pace, and I can say I've got pace, average pace, last lap pace, and I can get exactly what I would normally set up on those higher-end watches on this. It's not any different in that respect. So if I go back here, you can see I can enable the heart rate zone gauge. I can enable that 3rd screen I just set up. Choose back one more time. This is also where I can set up alerts. So these, for example, are things like heart rate, run, walk, pace, time, distance, cadence, calorie. You can set those all up here and then go down even further. And you can choose auto pause or auto scroll. Auto pause means that if you stop at a stoplight, it'll pause the watch timer, versus auto scroll is going to go ahead and just iterate through the different data fields that you set up. For me personally, I don't like either so much, mainly because in the case of the auto pause, I just like to control it myself. And there's a threshold sometimes there where you can dip below it or above it, so I just leave it off. In the case of auto scroll, I just want to know that whatever I last looked at data field wise is what I look at again the next time I see it. So I don't want it changing. But you do you, whatever makes you happy is cool. And then for GPS, you have 3 basic types here: GPS only, GPS plus GLONASS, or GPS plus Galileo. Garmin's default default is GPS plus GLONASS, though you can also try GPS plus Galileo if you're having issues with the GPS plus GLONASS. So going on back here, at this point what it's telling me is it's got my phone connected, and you'll see the auto start with that little like eye icon there. That means it's going to send out a live track message to my friends and family, letting them know where I am. And then the heart rate icon is blinking because it does not have heart rate lock using this heart rate sensor. So if I put my finger over it for just a second, it should go ahead and find my heart rate. That green light will light up. You can see it right there. It's going to get brighter. It adds power during workouts. So it's going to go ahead and make that light a little bit brighter, a little bit easier to see and read my heart rate from it. And then if I were to flip it over here, I can probably even get that to lock after just a little bit of time. At this point, it's not quite yet locked because it's just my finger, but we're going to skip that for now. You can use a heart rate strap with this if you're not getting good accuracy results out of the optical heart rate sensor. I found that this particular sensor, the Gen 4 one, for me, my skin tone and the amount of hair I have on my arm and all that kind of stuff, generally works out pretty well. Just wear it snug and that'll help out in most cases. But still, you can go to a heart rate strap, no problem, either AMP Plus or Bluetooth Smart. So basically any heart rate strap you're going to find in the market today is supported. At this point, I'm going to click the start button and get started. You can see my data fields that I've customized right there. And I can just simply swipe through these 3 data pages using my finger just like that. There is a live track start notification that goes ahead and confirms that I've got the live track lit up. And you can see over on my phone right there, that's super bright and overexposed, that the live track in progress just was shared out to my friends and family. So they get that now. Back over on the watch itself, we can swipe up to the different data fields. Obviously, we're not going anywhere, but these would normally show, of course, if you're going somewhere and doing an actual workout. I can pause this by pressing the upper right-hand button like this. And there you go. And you can hear those system tones. Those are a little bit different on the Venu 2 Plus because the speaker. I've also got the speaker turned way up right now. So if they sound loud to you, it's because I have it turned up all the way so you can hear it on the microphones. You can turn those down to a much more reasonable level if you want to. Now, once you're done with your workout, you can tap the save button at the bottom there, and then you can see the summary information. Here's the summary from my workout just a little bit ago. You can see your total distance and time and pace. And if it's an outside workout, you're going to see a little like squiggly breadcrumb trail map of that particular route. And then you'll also see your time and zone as well as your lap times. And then all this information has way more detail on Garmin Connect Mobile and then off to any third-party sites that you push to, like Strava or Training Peaks or whatever it may be. You can see some examples of screenshots right here of what you're seeing on Garmin Connect Mobile from a recent run I have. And the same is true for any sport mode that you have. Obviously, for the different sport modes, you get different data. So you can get different run data than you would in cycling, and different cycling data than you would in yoga, and so on. Okay, so now let's look at the speaker and the microphone bits, since those are newest on the Venu 2 Plus. Now the way to access that, as I mentioned earlier on, is this button right here. First for the voice assistant. So for that, I'm gonna go ahead and just long press for a second, and it starts the voice assistant up. Now what's interesting though, who is DC Rainmaker?
Here's some information.
So you're going to see that what it does is it both responds back in the speaker itself on the watch, as well as it shows you a result on your phone. Now, the voice assistant that you have will vary based on your phone. In my case, with an iPhone here, it'll be Apple Siri. In the case of a Samsung phone, you'll have a choice between Google Assistant as well as Bixby. And in the case of a standard Android phone, when that's not Samsung, you'll get Google Assistant. Now, I can tap this again to ask another question, and it's going to read out the answer to me. Now, I'm going to take off my microphone real quick so you can hear this more clearly. So I'll put this right next to it. There we go. And I ask that question again. What is the weather today?
It's currently cloudy and 39 degrees.
And at the same time, it also shows the weather on my phone over here as well, at the very top there. So that's the voice assistant piece right there. And it basically works just like you'd expect from any voice assistant. I'm not really a big voice assistant kind of guy. I just don't generally use it except for like timers in the kitchen, but it's there. I think the other pieces on the speaker are actually more interesting to me. So the next one is ability to play music. I'm gonna go back to the music controls menu, so up the right-hand corner right there, and get into my Spotify music that I've already downloaded. So I'll tap the Spotify icon. In this case, I can play this straight from here. Now I have two options. One, I can use the speaker if I want to on the watch, or I could pair a Bluetooth headphone to it by clicking Add New, because I don't have one already paired. If I had one already paired and was turned on, it'll automatically play through that, or it'll let me choose which one if I have multiple ones paired. So going back here, I'll choose speaker, and you can hear it. And now, because I don't want to get a copyright claim from this to my YouTube channel, I'm going to pause it real quick there. And I'm just going to say, like, from a speaker quality standpoint, it's not horrific. It's not bad. It's not great. It's just, in the middle. It's acceptable. It's acceptable that right now I have it fully turned up, so it's going to be kind of a bit more tinny than normal. But if I had it on my wrist and I was just here, the studio, somewhere by myself, I didn't want my phone, and I just want to listen to music without headphones, then that works. I would admit, like, the number of scenarios here are somewhat limited, but for people that want it, that don't want to carry a phone, because you don't need your phone at all for this, it works great. Whereas the voice assistant, you do need a phone. And for the calling features, you do need a phone because of the fact that those are leveraging your phone's connection. But with the music, all the music is pre-downloaded onto your watch itself. Now, the next bit is the calling. So back again, the controls menu up here, or we could actually create a shortcut. So let's do that instead. We're going to press this once. We're going to add the shortcut, setup, and I'm going to choose a shortcut for the phone calling menu. So right there we go. Now the shortcut is added. So that means I go back here. Just go back to the watch face, and I tap this once, and boom, straight to phone calling, which is pretty cool. Now I have two options. One, do I want to go ahead and just type in a phone number manually, like it's 1999, or do I want to go back and choose a contact from my list right here? And you can see these are all my contacts. So I'm going to find myself in the list here. Where am I? Actually, I'm just going to call Des. He doesn't even know I'm going to call him. I'm just going to see what happens there. Okay, so now I'm just going to simply go ahead and call him. I tap his phone number right there, and it says calling. And at this point, it's leveraging the microphone on the unit itself. I'm going to pull this microphone out here, and that way you can hear him when he talks through. Hello, Mr. Des.
How's it going?
Not too bad. I'm recording right now, so I'm just recording the fact that I'm calling you, and it's showing a number, and I can hear you from the speaker on the watch itself.
And you sound very good on my iPhone 13 Pro speaker right now.
Not bad. Yeah, you sound pretty decent. You sound a little bit muffled, but it's not bad. As I just drop a whole bunch of stuff in the studio, so sorry about that, folks. But in this case, you can hear Des sounding pretty decent there. Also of note is on my phone, it shows that the audio is coming from the watch. So if I tap that right there, you see Venu 2 Plus as the source, as opposed to being from my iPhone itself. And I can then switch to the iPhone or speaker or my Mac if I wanted to, which is cool, just like you would switch a headset or something like that.
Now, do you want to try a fun experiment and for me to switch to the Venu 2 Plus?
Yo, a Venu 2 Plus to Venu 2 Plus. Let's do it.
That's right. All right, hold on.
Totally unplanned, by the way. I'm not kidding. This is just us doing it live. This is what you get when you watch a long form video.
All right, so now I'm talking on the Venu 2 Plus. How does it sound on your end?
Yeah, so you sound pretty good from my standpoint. A little bit fuzzier than it was with the phone, obviously, but it's still not bad. I can still totally understand everything that you're saying, no problems at all.
Yep, totally. No, and same thing on my end, where I can hear you crisp and clear for sure.
Very nice. Awesome, man. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your
no problem.
mid-morning recording session here.
Absolutely, and make sure to hit that like button, folks.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. Have a good one.
Take care.
There you go, and the call is ended. It's as simple as that. Okay, so the last bit of speaker and microphone portions I want to show is the emergency assistance and safety features. And there are basically three different ways this can kind of begin the snowball rolling, if you will. Number one, you could crash. Like you can crash your bike or fall, whatever the case is, and that triggers a crash detection, and that'll then alarm and then give you a choice as to what happens. And I'll show you how the choice works in just a second. The second way is to go into the controls menu up here. So just tap this for a second. I've added a control for emergency assistance down at the bottom there. Or the third way is the silent option, where it does exactly the same thing as I'll press this button right there, but does it silently, where you just hold this upper right hand button right here, keep on holding, keep on holding, keep on holding, and then boom, it goes and triggers that. And it counts down from 5 seconds as to what to do next. I'm gonna pause that for 1 second so I don't freak out a bunch of people here, because a bunch of people are about to get notifications and I haven't told any of them. So I'm gonna go back up here at the top and show you the options here first. So I'm gonna choose this one. And you can see, do you want to call or message? I'm going to choose call. Now in this case, I've defined it as my phone over here, my Android phone, a different line. And what's going to happen is you can see it's calling on my phone. So it's leveraging my phone that's connected to it to call my other number, my other phone line right here. And if I pick up, what'll happen is you can now hear me. So it's not going to like send any sort of message. It's just going to go ahead and give my voice to that particular phone. But you have two options when you set this up. The first one is that you can go ahead and choose to call a given number, a predefined emergency contact. And then the second one is that you can go ahead and choose to send it to 911 or the emergency service, depending on what country you live. But at the same time that it makes that phone call, it's also sending an emergency message to those people. So I just got that right now. I got up my phone. I have a big list of people that are all about to get emergency notifications. And what that shows in that emergency notification up in the corner right now is my current location, as well as a live track for that session going forward. So that means, let's say I crashed, or let's say I'm being kidnapped, or whatever the case may be. In that scenario, it'll actually go do a live track the entire time, showing my location using my cell phone. Now, all these features do require your cell phone be with you because there's no LTE or cellular in the Venu 2 Plus, only in the 945 LTE. Then in that case, if your cell phone's not with you, these features aren't going to work because they're leveraging the calling and cellular capabilities of your phone. But still, you have those options there. The last options I mentioned earlier is that you can go, instead of doing a phone call here, you can choose just to send the message. And that does exactly what I just described. The live track sends a message to your friends, and then you can stop that live track once the situation is safe, and you go and just send a message out to those same group of people saying, hey, all is good. Okay, with that, I believe we have covered almost everything except one last thing of note, which is the bands. So the bands here are 20 mil, as you can see right there, the 20, and they're standard quick release bands. So you can go on Amazon and buy whatever crazy band you want for the Venu 2 Plus, as long as it's 20 mil band. Keep in mind that's different than the original Venu 2, which is 22 mil, and the Venu 2S, which was 18 mil. So they split the difference here on this with the 20 mil instead. And then finally, one last thing to mention is contactless payments. Once you've set that up on the app, which it automatically walks you through when you first get the watch, you can go here and tap the upper right corner, controls menu, and choose the Garmin Pay option. You'll then enter your passcode in. I'm not going to show you it. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Now you've got the card right there. As long as you're next to an NFC reader, it'll go ahead and pay just fine using your particular card. So it's pretty straightforward. It's exact same Garmin Pay technology that's been in the watches for a number of years now. It's also kind of standard issue on most Garmin wearables. So there you go. That's a complete look at the Venu 2 Plus. If you found this video interesting and useful, definitely do whack that like button at the bottom there. Again, it really does help the channel. Or consider subscribing. I can tell you January is going to be crazy busy for new sports tech stuff. You don't want to miss any of it. With that, have a good one.